Please remember that this is meant to be a snapshot of topics that affect entrepreneurs, but you should always consult an attorney to customize this type of protection to your specific grind.
Welcome to another episode of
Entrepreneur Bind and Grind.
My name is Reba J.
And I am Christine Rose.
And we are here to spread knowledge that can protect the legal and business interests of the
modern entrepreneur who is on their grind.
Today we have a special guest and we'll be focusing on end-of-year giving and tax preparation. So grab a cup of tea
or a shot of whiskey
and let's get to it.
But remember, we are your friends in your head, not your attorney.
So we are nearing the end of the year. So it's only right that we give you a special episode to prepare you for tax season 2020 by maximizing your deductions and end-of-year giving for 2019.
We have Mark Duperval here to give you some insider information about end-of-year giving, charitable donations, and tax tips for your business. So take out your pen and paper. Okay, so Mark, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your background in the tax area.
No problem. First and foremost, thanks for having me, y'all. I like what y'all doing. I respect the platform.
Thank you.
I'm originally from New York, a New York native. That's actually where I met Christine. Went to middle school together.
Hey.
A little bit about myself. I have an accounting degree. Towards the end, my last semester of my college experience, I found a job doing taxes, doing mentorship through somebody, or being mentored by somebody, actually. And it's actually almost been a decade now that I've been doing taxes. The first 6 years I was doing taxes under this lady, and the last 3 I've been doing it myself as my own business. That's pretty much that.
All right. So enlighten us on some tips and tricks that we can use for end-of-year giving that all entrepreneurs, whether they have an LLC, a corporation, or a nonprofit, what they should know.
No problem. So first of all, there's 3 types of giving. You can give cash, you can give property/equipment, or you can deduct travel expenses.
That is real. I didn't even think about that.
Right.
That was so good. Okay,
Yeah,
keep
for
going.
sure. So with the cash part, and you can give as much as you want, but anything over $250, you'll actually need paperwork from the organization.
Yeah, that I know.
And one thing about the organization, for it to even qualify for deduction, has to be a 501(c)(3) official organization. You can find those organizations on the IRS website.
Okay.
As far as property, like say clothes or something, the part you deduct is the fair market value, not actually what it's worth. Right now, the fair market value of what it's worth at the time.
Would that be higher than like the fair market value compared to the value that it's worth? Which one would be higher?
It depends. It depends.
That makes me want to look back at some things I didn't give away.
No takes.
Wait a minute.
Is it
now.
take backs?
Yeah.
And as far as travel expense, you can deduct 14 cents per mile when you travel to help a charity.
Wait a minute. So me going from south side, I'm not going to tell y'all where I'm at, but south side of Atlanta to Kennesaw for this nonprofit that what? See?
14
cents per mile.
Oh, see, my 2020 taxes are already looking better.
It's like,
Well, it's not what it used to be, and we'll talk about that a little later with Trump changing a couple of the laws in 2017. It's not as profitable as it used to be with itemizing charitable contributions, but we'll talk about that a little later.
Okay.
but it all helps.
Yeah,
I'll
of course.
take it.
Yeah, it definitely helps. So tell us a little bit more about a nonprofit. What is a nonprofit?
A nonprofit, for you to be a nonprofit, you have to go through the IRS to submit. It's a long process, but it's definitely beneficial. You can have tax exempt status where you don't pay taxes, of course. You also could get a lot of help from the donations made because you're able to give people back paperwork that gives them tax deduction. And also in some states, it's very state by state, they have sales and property tax exemptions.
Oh, that's nice.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think Georgia got that.
I don't think so either.
And as far as the max amount of donation, it's 60% of your AGI, adjusted gross income.
Okay.
Not bad.
Good to know. All right, so then for the entrepreneurs who are listening who have, let's say, an LLC or a corporation, what should they look for in terms of end-of-year giving?
It depends for each different entity. If you're LLC, if it's a single member LLC, it's just like regular. If it's the LLC is taxed as a corporation, you can't deduct it as a business expense, but you can deduct it separately on Form 1120. And then as far as partnerships and S corps, you can list the contributions on a Schedule K1, and a Schedule K1 is a form that each shareholder gets. So you'll deduct it individually.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. All right. So you kind of spoke on deductions, but I want to get into the list of deductions for entrepreneurs. I know that list has changed since 2017, but if you could just give us a couple of the big ones, that would be super helpful for all of us, including me since I do the taxes for 2/8.
Come on now.
That's it. I hear you, no problem. Basically, as an entrepreneur, you can almost deduct anything as long as it's business related. A couple of the big ones, advertising, like if you have business cards, if you use social media, MailChimp, like email blasts, all that type of stuff, commission and fees, licensing, certifications. You can do rent, like if you pay for office space. A good one is actually that people don't know about is your home office expense. Like say you have a 1,200-foot house, but you use like your maybe you have 2 bedrooms. Say you use 1 bedroom as solely your home office. You'll deduct. You'll basically calculate how much square footage that is compared to the house, and you can do that according to your rent.
Yeah.
Use that.
Wait a minute, I need to do that for my mortgage.
You didn't know that?
Yeah.
See, these are things that y'all say to me, but I don't retain. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, also supplies, travel expenses, meals and entertainment, repairs, maintenance. Basically almost anything that's business related to your business, you can basically write off.
Okay. So y'all better hear that, entrepreneurs. Make sure everything has a business purpose, okay?
Right.
Exactly.
Write that off.
Yeah. What I do is on the back of my receipts, I'll say, was at, this bar meeting this person talking about this thing. So that way, if they ever hit me up, like, ma'am, why are you spending all this money at this bar? Well, I have entertainment clients and they
Right.
like to drink. And I was talking to this producer about this contract. So thanks.
One tip I do have about that is to actually have separate accounts, to actually have a business account and a
Oh,
personal
yeah.
account.
Oh, no.
Especially
we
for
already
tax
talked about that.
purposes. Yeah,
We
especially
pushed
for
that.
tax purposes.
Yes, we push that.
Going
See,
through
guys,
an
it's not
account
just
trying to
us
see
saying
what's
it, okay?
business and what's personal. It's good to have a business account.
Yes. All right. So, what do you need to know about taxes for your business? Like documentation, tips, and tricks, just little bits that you can share with our listeners.
Well, first I'll say use a tax professional because you don't know what you don't know.
That's real.
So that's number one. Holla at me. That's number one. Keep a record, receipts of everything. There's apps out there that can track different things like mileage. You can use Dropbox for documentation.
We have a tech episode that we list these things.
Right. There's a lot of different apps. And again, I will also say just use the tax code to your advantage if you're a business owner because the tax code is made for business owners. It's not for the regular 9-to-5 worker, like I said. Anything business-wise you can deduct as long as it's an expense for your business. Just use that to your advantage. Almost anything you can write off. And then just an example, like say you made $100,000 in your business, but you had $70K in expenses, you'll be taxed on the $30,000 that's remaining. And you can't do that with a 9-to-5 job. If you made $100,000, you'll be taxed based off $100,000. So just use it to your advantage.
That is very
Right.
real, guys.
However, make sure you keep receipts.
Right.
Yep.
Pay yourself as an employee.
Come
Right.
on.
Okay.
Tell 'em.
And make sure that when you're paying yourself as an employee, those expenses aren't, oh, I'm going to pay my mortgage. Oh, I'm going to pay all of this because we already talked about piercing the veil.
Yep.
You already know they'll come for all your assets if you don't treat the business as the business and your personal as a personal.
Right.
All right. So, any last tips for our listeners on their entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, of course. Since tax season is coming up, here's a couple tips. You don't want to be preparing for tax season in the middle of tax season. So, of course, if you're a W-2 employee, 9-to-5 employee, update your address with your employer to avoid W-2 delivery delays. You also need to verify your allowances just to make sure you're being taxed correctly. I mean, it's kind of late now if you're changing it. But at least you'll be ahead of the curve for next year. Also, locate your previous year's return because it's always helpful having that when you're preparing your current return. And then just familiarize yourself with the new tax laws. If you go on irs.gov/tax reform, everything that your boy Trump did is on there. You can learn about that. And then last but not least, I would say calling the tax offset hotline because I can't tell you how many times that I'll do someone tax and it gets taken for just student loans that aren't being paid, maybe back child support, owe previous taxes. So just so it's not a surprise.
Right.
And that number for that hotline is 1-800-304-3107.
All right, so thank you so much, Mark, for coming in and talking to us about end of year giving, about taxes, what our listeners need to look out for if they have a 9-to-5 and if they're entrepreneurs. We really, really appreciate it. And I hope everybody enjoyed this bonus episode and feel a new level of confidence when preparing for tax season and maximizing all of your deductions this year.
We love and appreciate you for tuning into another episode of
Entrepreneur Bind and Grind.
To get more info on ways you can protect yourself during the tax season and get all the coins.
Yes. Remember, we're your friends in your head, not your attorney or your accountant.
Right. So, Mark, bless the people with your social media and how they can contact you.
Of course, the website is taxreadynorth.com. On all social media platforms, it's at TaxReadyNorth, TaxReadyNorth, at TaxReadyNorth on IG and Facebook. We also have a Twitter, but we're going to get that up and running. We don't really use it right now.
I feel that. We don't do that either.
Check out our website at 28media.com.
And follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Remember, no Twitter, at 28media. Number 2, spelled out 8, add media.
Don't forget to subscribe, share, rate, and like this episode if we've taken your grind to the next level. Until next time, keep grinding.
This episode has been brought to you by 28 Media, executively produced by Christine Rose and Reba J. Theme music and recording by Creative Villains, and sound engineering by Kurt Kirk.